The Beef Initiative, through their beefmaps.com platform, is seeking to facilitate direct connections between ranchers and the consumers of beef in this country.
Yeah, I think the baseline of the work is simply direct connections to your farmers and ranchers, and that we try to do that philosophically, but also technologically. What we really lead with is that link at the top of the listing, which goes directly to that rancher's website. And that way, the rancher can secure their own customers. They can then sell to their own customers, and we just become the broadcast unit for their ranch, right? So, the last thing that we want to do is become the beef checkoff on steroids.
They do that by providing a variety of beef producers a platform to connect with those people looking for their specific style of management and beef.
The story of each and every rancher is really where the connection is made. I always joke and say that God made so many different colors of cows because nobody could agree on the same color cow. And buying beef is the same way, is that you find something specific that you resonate with. June calls me Ranch Mama Shannon. I am out doing all the things, and I love telling the stories. I'm in the truck, literally sitting at my processor. I just dropped off a load of hogs, and telling those stories is what makes that connection with the consumer.
All that and more on this episode 465 of the Working Cows podcast, brought to you by Ranch Right and C90 Ocean Minerals.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. This is Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows podcast, recorded exclusively in the Understanding Ag Studios. Very excited to be joined today by Shanen Ebersole and June from the Beef Initiative. They're going to share with us today about the platform that they've been developing and just kind of the progress and the work and their vision for where they'd like to see beef and the marketing of beef go in this country. Now, there is a difference, right, between marketing cattle and marketing beef, and so we're going to talk about that and how they see the problems that they see in the industry, the challenges that they see that ranchers are facing that want to market beef directly to the end consumer, and the challenges that the end consumers are facing, and we're going to talk to them about what they're doing to solve all of those things. So we'll have that conversation with Shanen and June right after a word from our sponsor today, Ranch Right. Shipping, preg checking, fall calving, the list goes on and on. Fall is always a busy time on the ranch, and yours is no different. It's easy to let the business side of your business fall to the bottom of the list this time of year. Visit ranchrightllc.com today and let them help you take your business from surviving to thriving. They will provide you with actionable financials so that you can build a profitable business and create generational wealth. After all, you got a ton to do, so wouldn't it be nice to have a team to help you? Visit ranchrightllc.com and let them help your business run a little bit smoother. June, Shanen, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows podcast.
Thank you so much for having us.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Obviously, in the news a lot lately and all the time, beef prices, imports, exports. What are we trying to do here with the American beef industry? And what you guys have been doing at beefmaps.com and other work that you guys have been doing is trying to help solve a lot of these issues. What are you guys doing? What is the kind of the baseline of the work that you guys have been successful with?
Yeah, I think the baseline of the work is simply direct connections to your farmers and ranchers, and that we try to do that philosophically, but also technologically. While you can buy beef directly from Beef Maps and from our platform, what we really lead with is that link at the top of the listing, which goes directly to that rancher's website. And that way, the rancher can secure their own customers. They can then sell to their own customers, and we just become the broadcast unit for their ranch, right? So, the last thing that we want to do is become the beef checkoff on steroids, which is, the beef checkoff makes $1 a head. Well, what does that mean if somebody makes 15% off of every steak sold in America? Oh, wow, that's a lot, right? So, we started there, building this e-commerce thing because that was where we were at the time, and that's what made sense. But, we evolved into that becoming the sort of a technological, like, a thing that is another entry point for people. But the main entry point is beefmaps.com and connecting with your local rancher directly through their website, not ours, right? We want to get out of the way. And if we do a good job, then the ranchers will continue to pay their monthly listing fee. If we don't do a good job, then they will cancel their listing. And so that it's really proof of work based, and we try to lead with results always. We did a lot of stuff for, as a service for free for a while, to sort of test things out. And so with beefmaps.com, that's the core of it. And then there's also beefnews.org, which I created after Shannon and I created beefmaps.com. And that the goal is, not just to educate the public about the centralization of beef and the solutions that, there are to combat that, but also to literally give ranchers a voice on a platform that could be and is becoming more and more mainstream, right? So, ranchers who join us on beefmaps.com as gold standard listings, they get their face on the map, and people love that. It was the thing that changed the game, was just making sure that I'm texting ranchers, get me a family photo. I don't care about your cows right now. I want you and your family. But, they get their face on the map, and they, the bottom bar where they get a little bit more promotion there. But, that also gives them an opportunity to, if they want to, they can write on Beef News, right? And it will come out on our socials, and we'll promote it and stuff like that. So, we're still developing that side of things, but all in all, what we're about is direct connection, no middleman, whether that is education and content or that's the beef itself, right? And so we call that Rancher Direct, and because we're going pro now, it's Rancher Direct certified. That's right.
Very good. Okay, so I want to hear a little bit more from you, June, about how it works from the rancher side, and what that connection is like with the end consumer, and then talk to Shannon a little bit for her perspective as well.
For sure. So Shannon and I are hand in hand when it comes to connecting consumers to ranchers. I'm the sort of front-facing lead side on the public, the public-facing side on social media and stuff like that. And everything I do, the only goal, okay, aside from not lying, of course, and telling the truth, but the only goal is making sure that everyone in the world sees beefmaps.com come across their screen, right? And so once I added that kind of tag to our profile names everywhere, we started to see, okay, now I can go viral, and it acts as a marketing mechanism directly leading people to Beef Maps. So someone clicks on that link, beefmaps.com, they open it up, and the first thing that they see are like a lot of faces. It's immediately human. It's not the brand. We love the brand. We're riding for the brand. Don't get me wrong, but the brand comes after the human, right? then once you trust, Shannon taught me this, you got to know, love, and they got to know, love, and trust you, June. Stop being so aggressive on the internet. Well, Shannon, it's working a little bit, so whatever. But so once consumers get to the map, they see these handsome faces, these beautiful faces. One of my favorites is past who is it? Pasture View Farms in Pennsylvania. They're a gold standard producer with us, and they're Amish, I believe, or Mennonite. One of the two. I think they're Amish. And it's just on the map. There's this bonnet. There's a woman in a bonnet, like on the map, and it's like, beat that, JBS, right? Like, beat that, Butcher Box. And not that I actually like Butcher Box. He's a good guy. We've contacted him. He's a nice guy. But you can't really beat that, right? So once they get there, that's when they do two things. One of two things. They go directly to that rancher's website and purchase from them or contact them, or they click around a little bit more and they see that, oh, there's like beef for sale directly on this platform. They click through that. They end up inevitably in Shannon's inbox, where they have entered their email, and now that's where Shannon takes over. So if I lead the majority of people directly to the ranchers' websites, and then the rest of the folks who visit us directly, they end up dropping their email, and Shannon gets to tell them all these great stories about the ranchers that are working with us. And so it's a two-pronged kind of thing, right? It's the public persona, but also that back end, like, oh, okay. I was saying to somebody earlier, I'm kind of like I'm like a pit bull in front of the herd, and Ranch Mama's like the actual like cowgirl, like doing stuff. I just yell and bark in front of everybody and make sure everybody looks at the herd.
Very good. So, would you say typically the relationship ends up being somebody local to that rancher is buying from them, or is a lot of the beef that is sold in connection with beefmaps.com, whether it's bought directly from the rancher or bought through your platform, is it shipped? What would you say is?
Well, I'm going to have my perspective on it, and then Shannon's going to have hers because she's got a different set of numbers than I do. But it looks to me like people do they want to localize. They do want to, and I wish we had so many more ranchers. Arizona, I don't know what's going on in Arizona, but apparently there's no beef in Arizona and everybody's looking for it. No, I know there's tons of ranchers out there, but well, that's like the most common. We get Arizona. Where the heck is Arizona? I know that there's ranchers here. Minnesota's another one. And so people are really localizing, and that's the kind of education that we do. We want people to circle around their local communities, build out their rancher first. Then maybe if he's successful, him and his pals will form a processing center. And now that community is self-sovereign, right? They don't need any help. They are good. And if we can do that in every community, Texas Slim, like, one of the things that he says is, Texas has 254 counties, and Texas used to have 254 processing centers. It's that simple. We just need to get back to that, right? And so it's going to take a long road to get there, but I think that we're onto something that is scaling in its own unique way. It's weird. I don't know. It's scaling in a big way, but it's scaling in a decentralized, viral kind of way. And so that's what I'm seeing. What are you seeing, Shannon?
Well, I think consumers, we touched on it a little bit earlier about how the type of beef that you raise, they do want localized, but they also have priorities in what type of beef they want to choose. And so that's where It is a really good split with whether they're purchasing locally directly through beefmaps.com or they're clicking through to one of those featured ranchers along the bottom and learning more about their story. I think the story of each and every rancher is really where the connection is made. And I always joke and say that God made so many different colors of cows because nobody could agree on the same color cow. And buying beef is the same way, is that you find something specific that you resonate with that rancher. June calls me Ranch Mama Shanen. I am out doing all the things, and I love telling the stories. Today you can see I'm in the truck, literally sitting at my processor. I just dropped off a load of hogs, and telling those stories is what makes that connection with the consumer. Getting those videos of my little partner here next to me, the littlest cow dog, moving cows this morning, 10 times her size. Those sorts of things, those stories, those pictures, that connection is what our consumers are missing. And I think that's what Beef Maps and the Beef Initiative bring to the average everyday consumer. Then I have a ton of passion for ranchers because I believe that with the success of the backbone of America, everything else will thrive. So the more ranchers we can help by getting listed on Beef Maps and helping you come up with direct marketing plans and websites, I think that's the key to everything, is helping connect that consumer directly back to the ranch and helping that rancher not take a ton of time, but just document what you're doing. Share that story of what you're doing. Like you, Clay, have taken time out of your life to share rancher stories in tons of different ways. And that connection to other ranchers is huge. But the gap between consumers and producers is so wide that they are craving connection. And so if they can find a local producer, they love that the most. But otherwise, they find someone that they connect with across the country. I ship boxes to California every single week because these consumers are craving connection to the land and the way that they grew up. And for some reason, they connect with me, or they connect with Jenny at Jay-Z, or the Stutzmans in Pennsylvania, the Amish farmers that we have. We've got Dixie up north that raises buffalo and cattle and lambs. So telling those stories is where we provide that connection. And Beef Maps, June had the best idea to connect us all together in one location. And we don't have to agree on the same color cow. We don't have to agree on grass-fed versus grain-fed. We don't have to agree that cattle are better than bison. We don't have to agree that cattle are better than sheep. I'm sorry for my phrasing. I give myself away. But we don't have to agree on any of these things. We don't even have to agree on the bigger political views like NCBA versus RCAF versus this versus that. We all can connect with consumers in one location. It's all about bringing people together, whether that's ranchers or consumers. I feel like, as June has dubbed me, Ranch Mama Shanen, that is my goal in life, is to connect people and to find that middle ground. And I've been doing that for several years now, inside and outside of Beef Maps.
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, C90 Ocean Minerals. C90 brings the power of sea energy agriculture to your farm or ranch. Using the principles discovered by Dr. Maynard Murray, C90 harnesses the power of the ocean to remineralize your soil, increase pasture nutrient density, and raise healthier livestock. C90 is perfect for all livestock and can help you unlock the genetic potential of your herd. Available nationwide at Tractor Supply, plus give their team a call to learn more about their new spore-based soil biological input and help take your soil fertility to the next level. Visit c-90.com or call 717-580-1458 today. C90, a wave of nutrition. Well, and there's so much opportunity. I know I'm just looking at the website, and you've got, like you said, no listings in Arizona. There's one in South Dakota, one in North Dakota. And, I was just looking the other day, South Dakota, 7th most cows of any state in the union. And so obviously there's more people raising beef there, and opportunity there for growth in this platform as well, right? I mean, you guys are kind of just getting started, but the traction you've been able to get in this endeavor is pretty remarkable.
Well, think about it this way. How many people are in the state of South Dakota? Like 5 million, maybe?
No.
3 million?
No. Nope. Not even a million. Not even a million.
Okay. So there's only 1 million people in the state of South Dakota. June is amazing. He reached 8 million people today with one X post and shared this message. We have to think of it that way. As cattlemen, we are not competing against each other. We are just bringing ourselves to the forefront. 8 million people looked at one little post. There's probably 1 million posts on X every day, but 8 million people saw that post, and 8 million people interacted with that post. And June does this every day. We reach that many consumers every day. Each day, I reach over 18,000 email inboxes of people who want to talk directly to ranchers, people who want to hear the Ranch Mama stories from my perspective about the other ranches. I have recipes and tips and tricks from all the other ranches that we have and share their stories. That's what it's my responsibility to do, is to share this story. June gets to share all the fun political things that get the world moving. But building that connection is what makes it so much more room for all of us. So I would love to see, literally, like June said earlier, there's how many counties in Texas? We used to have that many processors, 254 counties in Texas. I think we need 254 ranchers in Texas listed on beef maps for that specific reason.
Right.
I think we need...
But first, we need to get the scale that I'm always trying to hit here is I don't want to bring on. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of maps out there. There's a lot of ways that people can find their local producers. What we don't want to do is flood the map with producers, and now nobody's benefiting. Only one guy here, there, and it's just kind of like, all right, like, let's be a little bit more focused so we can actually build real relationships with people rather than just like, come on board, hey, come on here, sign up. Bye, see you, thanks. It's not like that. So where we're currently at with our current numbers on beefmaps.com is roughly 30 to 40,000 hits a month. And we have roughly, I think 180 or so producers on there. That gives them about 166 customers per ranch. That is winning. That is ranchers winning and ranchers saying, you're doing a good job and I want to stay around you because you keep proving that you're doing a good job. And that's all that we want to do, is we want to do a good job. So I want to scale this thing slowly, right? It's like, we don't just make our money on $25 beef maps listings. Obviously, we'd have to be selling thousands of them to like make a living, right? We also help producers build websites when they need it, email marketing, all types of stuff like that. So we don't have to put all of our eggs in that basket, and so we get to build a little bit slower and more methodical and a little bit more personal than another group might want. So should beefmaps.com have 1,000 producers on it? Yes, it should, but not unless we have 100,000 people visiting the site. So we're working on scaling those visitors up and up and up. And, with these posts, Now, well, like on X and on the news and all that stuff. Now, I'm cheating a little bit, I'll say, or something like that, because my goal is not just to educate and to bring out the truth and to rah 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 and get everyone all fired up. Like, do you think I care if someone gets all emotional and fired up? I really don't care. My goal is to make sure that people see that beefmaps.com come across their screen and that when they see it, they match it with the truth. They go, okay, this is some truth stuff that I'm seeing in beefmaps.com. It's like you got this guy being really aggressive with the truth, and if don't look at the comments, please. Don't look at my comments. I get really impatient with people. You can look at the comments. It's a riot. But the goal is to hit people with the truth, to show them right there, beefmaps.com, that your solution is not to comment and like and share. Your solution is to go visit this website, go find your local rancher. When they get there, they see faces. And that's suddenly it goes from this dark, like, this kind of like apocalyptic beef culture to, oh, here's the warmth that I was looking for. Here's the sunshine. I'll go back to X and get the dark news, and it'll bring me to the light. And the ranchers can then tell me themselves that their experiences, yeah, June's on point.
Well, like, I mean, for example, you had a post go viral earlier last week, as we're recording this yesterday, I guess. But it says, and then you make a comment down below, if you want to save this country, you're going to have to do it yourself. Every dollar to the grocery store is a nail in the coffin of U.S. independence. And I think that's, true. If we look at the way things have been in the past in this country, there was a stronger connection to local food, to locally sourced ingredients. And I've been saying for a long time that the pendulum is swinging. We went way too far into globalization, and the pendulum's swinging. The local barber's coming back. People go there to sit and wait an hour to get a haircut and talk to people. I think the local butcher's coming back behind the barber, and I hope, like you said, we get the processing centers and all that stuff that we need. But it is true. We got to have those local connections, and that's kind of what beefmaps.com is facilitating.
Yes, as much as possible. I love that you brought up the barbershops, because it's actually something new for me, is to, like, I mean, not that new, but maybe something from like my distant past that was no longer a thing. Like when I was a kid, I remember the barbershop culture, in Philly and Trenton, where I'm also from. Like, there was barbershops, people used to go there and hang out. But then as I grew up, it kind of went away, and I have a barber now again, and he just offered, we talk about beef all the time. He's like super, just like always asking all questions. He offered me a cinnamon roll with brisket wrapped inside of it earlier this. I didn't get a chance to get it, but I will let everyone know how that is. And so, but yes, it's that human connection, right? It's like getting back to that local thing. And you know what? It's like, to me, you can't, God is in control of history, right? God is in control of the flow of that. And he has just taught us all these lessons about what it's like when you lose connection with humans. And so that's what makes it so visceral and like real when people do get that connection. And it's, I mean, some of the emails that we get, Shannon, like how just like, like just people come in and they just talk about how not just their health has changed, but how they're connected to their local community and how their kids are now, doing that. And that's what it's about. That's really, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. That's what moves us. And that's what, makes us want to keep fighting so hard, is that building, saving some childhoods again.
On both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ranchers and the children of those purchasing the beef.
100%. 100%. And I don't know if Shannon wants to say anything, but I was going to say that kind of leads to this Argentina thing, with Trump, and talking about Argentina is fighting for its life and they're dying, was the quote, and that he said. And look, it was a short clip. We went viral with it. It's like 5 million views. It's a short clip. There's not a lot of context, but the words were said in succession too much times. No, we love his personality and everything. We support him, but that's that's a big issue. And what does that mean, right? There's another link below the, if you want to save this country, you're gonna have to do it yourself. And it's they rigged the market, blamed the rancher, and then everybody fell for it, right? And what you just said about ranchers getting their childhoods back is that's what this is about, right? Like, their 3.5 times higher suicide rate of farmers and ranchers in this country. That's that's insane. That is insane. That stat alone should make you want to drop everything and let's build our agriculture back, because you can't be a healthy nation when your farmers are all committing suicide. Come on, that's insane. And importing more beef and more live cattle and all that for slaughter is not going to help them, right? What does it do? At 3.5 times higher. What is the rate here? I think it's hard to see the numbers, but the CDC has their numbers on it. And it's 3.5 times higher. I don't know the exact figures, but you can't go on as a nation like that. You need to figure out ways to fix that. And it's got to be priority one, man. Like, we got to be kidding me. This is not priority one. So
yeah.
Let's get back on track.
That is life-changing for a rancher. If we think about it, most time ranchers look at maybe $100 a head profit per calf. And so $100 is a good year. Ranchers expect to make money 2 years out of 4. So that means 2 years we're losing money and 2 years we're making money. That's in great projections, because we all know that it's more like 1 in 4 years we actually make a profit. So if you take that and you even start like we did 25 years ago, I started marketing 2 calves a year. And every year I just tried to double those calves as direct-to-consumer beef. And I can see it changing lives with ranchers like Jenny and Joe at Jay-Z Meats. They just had a record shipping day. They sold 4 quarters and had 3 more people come straight to the ranch to pick up beef from Beef Maps. That is life-changing, because if you look at the profit margins that JBS and the other 3 packers have, if we kept those profit margins and did not give them to those big 4 packers, we could save the American rancher. We wouldn't have to worry about all the things that do stress us out as ranchers that make that suicide rate much higher. Because we all do have to look at profitability, and we have to look at how we're doing things. So if you just, literally the way that I started selling direct to consumer, I kept all the docks. I had a pen of completely blind calves one year that I turned out with my pet cow to graze every single day in a different little paddock around the house, because I wasn't going to take that dock at the sale barn. Because you and I both know that if you've got 2 eyes with white spots in them, they're pretty much no valued. But those calves, I had little kids. I was around the house. I could turn them out in different pens and mow my yard every single day in a different area. And I recouped the entire amount of income that those calves would have made, selling them at the sale barn, plus the profit margin from harvesting them. Yes, I had to do a little extra work, but those are the things that I have the privilege to get to do with our gold standard ranchers is I get to help you through that process and learn how to do those things. Like I said, was texting me late last night and I had our product updated and changed over this morning by 6 a.m. Central because she was sold out. She didn't want to list her quarters and halves anymore, and we didn't have time to talk through details of how to change them for pre-sales. So we just listed burger. And oh, by the way, we talked about, how many opens did you have this year? Well, I know we've got 5, she says. And this is all via text before 6 a.m. my time. So mountain time, that's what, 4 or 5 your guys' times?
5.
This is early in the morning. And what about those cull cows? She's like, oh my goodness. Joe says, yes, we need to talk later because we've got lots of different ways to help ranchers connect with those consumers because we all know where those cull cows go. They go into the food chain just the same. So why are those cull cows worth so much less than our fat calves? Well, we can do those things different too. We don't have to take, it's probably not accurate right now. It was 3 weeks ago, $2 a pound for cull cows here in Iowa. And that was a couple weeks ago. A friend sold cull cows and was amazed. $2 a pound for cull cows. If you do the math on that, that's $8 a pound ground beef at the bare minimum break-even cost at $2 a pound for a cull cow. So helping educate our consumers on those things, and I get to talk cows. I get to talk with ranchers about how to maximize those profits. Do you have some amazing beef sticks? You have those cull cows. And now you have, like June said earlier, 160 people hitting your website each and every single month. Why not offer at least ground beef? I don't know about your family, but that's what we eat the most of. It's quick, easy, and simple. When mom's in a rush, ground beef it is. When dad walks in to cook, ground beef it is. We don't have to thaw it. We can cook it from frozen and we can go from there. So why not talk about some details about how to, expand those profit margins even more than direct to consumer? Or how do we wade in this direct to consumer marketing aspect? Those are the fun things that I get to obviously go off on a tangent on with Beef Maps Ranchers. And I host a once a month office hour. It's once a month right now, but I'm always available. An office hour on strategy and how specifically to help you market. What do you have going on? Do you have an email list? How can we help you build that email list, build that landing page to collect those emails? Because we all talk to people all the time that say they want to buy beef more direct, even if it's some random person in the grocery store when we're walking by that beef aisle just to see, I'm in Stupid Mart. What is Stupid Mart ground beef right now? Stupid Mart ground beef last week when I was in there was $6.75 a pound for the 70-30 5-pound roll. I can do that math pretty quick, and I can make that pencil in a cull cow. It's a lot more than what I'm getting straight up in a cull cow, maybe. A lot of times it is. So let's strategize in how we can change those one step at a time. We still sell at the sale barn if that's what we do to make our farm payment, but we start telling people, hey, yeah, I've got a couple of calves. They're perfectly healthy because we all know they recover from pink eye. But we all know that sale barn is going to give us half their value. In my case, we raise Maine and Jew. I got into this specifically because our bull was coloring up their hips. He was throwing white that year. For whatever reason, he was throwing tons of white. And as a 23-year-old young married wife with 2 little kids in tow, I had to go to the sale barn by myself. And when they split those 2 white-socked calves, I didn't know that I could say no sale. I didn't know that I could say, no, we're not selling them for half of what the rest of the calves sold for. They came off the same set. They were the same size. They were the same square hipped. And yet he called them Holsteins because they had a big white hip on them. They're not freaking Holsteins. They're manes on an Angus cow. Why are you doing this to me? And that's what instigated my journey, is because I didn't want to have to take what one swing of the gavel was willing to give me. I didn't want to sit there with that pit in my stomach at the sale barn, wondering if I was going to make enough to feed my family, make my farm payment, and maybe not have to work on farm jobs.
And there's so much opportunity created when we have two sets of eyes, and a male and a female brain looking at a business, And so I think if you can say, rather than go work an off-farm job, let's direct market a few head of beef every year, and I think that creates a lot of value there too. So I'd like to ask Shanen, what does the rancher need to do? So we're talking to ranchers here today. June's over there working his dark arts, creating demand for beefmaps.com. How does the rancher get involved? What do they need to do? What kind of do they need to have in place? Processing relationships.
Well, we
and all
can
those
start
kinds
at
of
square one, and I can teach you everything you need to do. If you go to beefinitiative.com/pages/ranchers, that will get you to me directly into our email system. And that's where I start teaching ranchers what they need. So the basics things that you need, you probably already have. You have cattle. You have some oddballs that don't sell as great as what everything else at the sale barn sells for. Open heifers is another great opportunity to direct market in year one without holding calves over for a year, especially if you're breeding really tight calving dates. Those heifers that don't breed in 45, 60, or 90 days, they're pretty close to finish, aren't they? Especially if you run grass-fed. We all have our own locker where we process our beef. So if you have those two things in place, you're ready to go. If you have cattle and you know of a locker, otherwise I can teach you how to talk to that locker. You can see I'm literally sitting at my processor right now. I can teach you how to talk to that processor, what standards you need as far as if you're going to ship in-state or out-of-state. If you're just going to sell it custom, you can do that on day one. With a listing on Beef Maps, if they're going to come to the ranch and pick up the beef or come to the locker and pick up the beef, you can sell it custom inspected. As long as you get a deposit before that animal goes to harvest, you're good to go. That's how I started. People sent me money the day that I sold my calves, and then I kept their calf for a year. They got that relationship with me for a year before that animal went to harvest. So you can do it from day one where you sit right now. We have the systems in place to start teaching you everything that you need. The first step is just drop your email in and get to know us. If you already have your things in place, well, you're way ahead of the game. You're way ahead of the game to get listed on Beef Maps at any standard where you are. You can start a standard listing as 25. A featured listing, I get to know you a little bit better. I get to make sure that you have those shipping things in place or those inspection things in place. And that's pretty easy for me to do, I guess, because I've been doing it for so many years, is just to talk you through it. Most ranchers have access to it. June thinks driving 20 minutes is a long way, but I just drove 2.5 hours here to my processor. So when you live in the middle of nowhere, even the middle of nowhere, Iowa, you get to drive a ways. If you have cattle, you probably get to drive a little ways to your processor. So we're used to that. We can help you find a processor in your area. But those featured ranchers have inspected beef, so that way they can ship, they can sell off farm, those sorts of things. And then, like June said earlier, our gold standard ranchers, they get that face on the map, all the extra details, and 2 hours of one-on-one coaching from me every single month. Whether it's a question about your locker, whether it's a question of, what cuts should I do, or what kind of packages should I do, or, okay, I'm sold out. Jenny and Joe and I are going to talk this week. Okay, I'm sold out. Now what? Let's talk about those cull cows. Let's figure out how to make those make you more dollars and cents.
Very good. Very good. June, what are you thinking? What's on your mind here?
I think that's why we're such a good team here, because, she's got the access to the language of the experienced rancher that I could never ever bring to the table. Okay, maybe 25 years from now, when I'm have my ranch and everything, like I'll be able to like talk that talk, but I can't. I'm not a faker. I'm not going to pretend to be something. I'm probably not going to put on a cowboy hat. Maybe if I get a ranch, I will. But I will never put on a cowboy hat and wear sneakers. By the way, I know that much. Uh, but yeah, I mean, that's what makes us such a really good pair. And I'm on the other side, focusing on. I mean, let's be honest, like where I come from, everything that I've ever known in my life up until about 4 years ago was imported. Like my ideas, my culture, my food. And what it turned me into a very politically minded. I'm from Philly. We all know what Philly's like. All right. Don't hate me too much. No, you can hate me. We don't care. We're from Philly. We love it.
Yeah.
Nah, but it what I have what my focus is on that is similar to Slim's in a sense, where to me this is about saving my community, right? Like my mom, we don't have to get too deep into like the biographical stuff, but like my mom was a drug addict in Philly and she died when I was young, right? And so my whole life was like basically me trying to figure out what happened to my family. Why is it so broken? Why why am I like I'm not connected to anything? And before beef and before I shook my rancher's hand, the problem was Trump, right? The problem was capitalism. The problem was like all of that stuff because there was no substance for me to grab onto because every idea came from outside of my community. Once I started connecting back to real communities, that's when everything shifted. And so I don't know if that's a good response to everything Shannon was just talking about, but it's sort of like my angle. And you know what? 80% of the United States lives in cities, and they're clueless and they think that rural America is racist. They do. They just do. It's just what it is. Like, look at some of the comments under the Argentina deal. I mean, we were coming at Trump and we were still being like, oh my gosh. I had so many comments where I had to say, like, what is your problem, man? Like, dude, like, take a step back. We're just addressing a problem. Stop assuming. And, so if I can do my job right, I can approach both sides of it. Of course, we're not going to appease a bunch of, okay, but that's a very slim vocal majority. The mass majority of people just don't know, right? And so they want to know more. And if I'm doing my job right, I'm gonna speak to them, people from the city, and people from the hood, and people from all these places in a way that makes sense to them. And I might reach I might reach a few ranchers out there who are like, this guy's a cowboy. I know he doesn't wear a cowboy hat, but I like him. But it's really Shannon that's going to build that deeper connection to rural America. I have to earn their trust. Shannon's already got it because she's rural American, right? And so I think that's what makes us such a good team on both ends of that stick. And that's our story, and we're sticking to it.
I think your story is definitely relevant, June, because I think 90% of America's population lives within 100 miles of a coast. Like you said, 80% lives in cities. I think 90% lives within 100 miles of the coast. Wow. And, less than 1% of Americans are agriculturalists in any shape or fashion. and that then the ranchers are a small sliver of that 1%. And so we need to understand what the other 99.5% of the world is thinking, or of America is thinking, and how do we talk to them? How do we help them become connected? What you were talking about is disconnected. And when you say capitalism is the problem, I think, in your mind it was. I think the problem is globalism, right? The problem is globalism and how we're willing to sell out the middle of America, and actually even some of the cities. The Rust Belt is what it is because they were sold out by globalist capitalist people who were only interested in profits, not interested in taking care of the families and individuals of the people in their neighborhood dependent on those things. And also, we're trying to do the same thing to the beef industry. We're trying to say, well, let's just go get our beef from anywhere, sell it as cheap as possible, and who cares the impact of the people in the middle of America who are raising this top quality product that really you can't get anywhere else, but we're just going to fake it and say, no, this is the same thing. It's red meat. It's all the same. It's not. But when it's just globalist corporations that are willing to, sacrifice all those things just so that profits can continue to roll in for their stakeholders and shareholders, they are the problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a way. I think that we're getting closer to landing on it. I think if we stick around for a couple more years, we'll really land on the language. But I don't feel like I'm not that much of a different person than I was when I, was like anti-Trump and stuff like that, right? I mean, I'm still the exact same person. It's just that I understand what value is now, and how value is created and how it's maintained. And that's the fight that if we keep pushing and we keep playing with language, because it's, I mean, it's crazy what a difference of a couple of words will do. I mean, if I would have worded that post any differently, there's no way it would have gone as far as it did, but it checked all the boxes for people and they could like it and go. But, the language of the left or whatever you want to call them, I hate that way of thinking, but the language of people from where I'm from, it tracks closely with the language of the cattle rancher, right? They're saying they're confused because they don't know what true monetary value comes from, and so it's always capitalism and Trump and all this stuff, and everything but the real issue, which is value remaining in your community, right? If we can hit that switch for people, then it's lights out. There is no more shopping at the grocery store. If we can hit that switch for people, not that I want to see grocery stores go out of business. I would just love to see grocery stores maybe sell local beef, but we need local processing for that, right? So there's a whole string of things that happens, but yeah, I think we can get there, and I believe truly that the only way to solve this political divide in this country, which is going to end up in war, there's no doubt about it. There is no solution in that, right? The only way to solve that problem is by connecting the city and the country through clean local food, through clean local food events, through, if this kid in the hood were getting his ground beef, Maha's doing great things, right? If this kid in the hood is not buying his sodas with Snap anymore, why can't there be just in one corner store in every neighborhood in the ghetto, there's just one corner store that has local beef and a little bit, maybe a flyer, a handout, hey, this is our neighbor in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. He comes 40 miles away and he comes into South Philly in the ghetto where you live. And this is his beef. And by the way, you could buy it with your SNAP benefits, right? That's how you fix things. You show these kids the faces, right? Then they go to the store. They're not looking at, Tony the effing tiger, man. They're looking at, like our actual person who feels just as warm and fun, right? I mean, it's effective marketing because it's effective marketing. It's Tony the Tiger feels warm and fun and cool. Well, ranchers have that, but they're actually it, right? And so people once they take that turn, I think it's a slow process, but I think we can get there. And I don't believe that there is any other thing that is going to prevent civil war, basically. I don't want to say something so bombastic, but there's only thing that's going to prevent that is by reestablishing our connection and our health. Because, hey, look, all these, this trans stuff, like, it's a biological hormonal process. It's right. We need to fix our biology. Let's cut the ideology out. Let's just attack this from a real world thing, right? Like, our biologies and our hormones are screwed up, and we're looking at screens all day, and we're eating processed food, and it's oxidizing our amygdala, which, by the way, causes rage and anger, right? And so, look, you fix the food, you fix this country. It's that simple. To me, it is.
Yeah, I think I'll let you jump in here, Shannon, in a second. But I think that the difference between rural America and the rest of America is, by and large, rural America maintains a connection to the land, and what you're talking about, getting food back to these corner stores where kids could buy some beef with their SNAP benefits. That's a little tiny thread of a connection to the land. But the reason that land connection matters is because it's what God created us for, right? I mean, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and he created two people, and he put them in a garden, and he said, tend and keep this garden. And so the closer you get to that occupation, the more you're doing what you were created to do, the better the outcomes in your neighborhood are going to be. And that's why developing these connections matters, right? And that's why we can see that healing as people begin to reconnect with what they were made for.
Such a great perspective. I hadn't heard that. I love that. I'm going to use that.
Shannon, let's as we point toward wrapping up here, Shannon, what's on your mind?
Really, the journey that we're on right now together as a country is to make America healthier again. And I think that's the one thing that we can all agree on. We can agree on those words, and we can agree that there's tons of different ways to do that. And that's the connection that I bring and that I help ranchers bring, is connecting back with our food and back with our land, because urban Americans don't get to have necessarily the connection in their day-to-day life, but they know me. And where this ranch mama voice came from is because literally every picture that I would take, I would tell my husband, stop, I need a picture real quick. He would roll his eyes. Are you kidding me? Are you really going to share that? Because it's the stupid things that happen on our ranches every single day that city Americans want to see. They want to see Shannon completely covered in mud from head to toe. The rest of her family is clean. Ice cream shop in a picture. What did you do? Did you push her in? Nope, she was pushing the chute. So everyone else was clean.
That wasn't just mud then, Shannon.
Well, my kids always liked working cattle days because we would pass through town on our way back home from the major farm where the most of the cows were on. And I'd walk into the pizza place and stop on the door and say, hi, I'm here for my pizza. I'll bring it to you. You stay right there on that mat. We have all been there, but city Americans don't get that connection anymore. And that's what I teach them how to do, is I teach them those connections with our ranchers. The me tootling out in my Jeep and the cows chasing me as fast as they can chase me. They think that's fun. I think, well, I guess the cows are Jeep trained, but I just needed to go check mineral today. I didn't really want to feed you. So we just need to share our stories more. And Beef Maps allows us to do that. And the Beef Initiative emails that I have the privilege of sharing from all the rest of the ranchers allow us to do that. Sharing those stories that June does amazing on X. He gets the controversy stirring. And then we come in there with a ranch mama story of, I started my health journey with a box of hamburger helper in one hand and trying to figure out how to make it from real food in the other hand. And walking through that process, or me snapping one of the ranchers on Beef Maps and say, show me your supper. No, really, show me your supper. And 9 times out of 10, they'll always send me a picture of what's on their plate. And people love it because they want to see how we eat. Right now, I'm working on a series about how meat is our anchor in the grocery store. And I've got a guide for consumers on how to save $1,500 a month by having bulk beef in your freezer. Because you and I, Clay, probably don't go to the store every week, every day. We go to the store once a month. When I go to the store, this truck is full to the gills. There's barely room for the kids in the back seat. I've got a cooler in the back end loaded with all the dairy and everything, and I am not going near a store for another 2 months. And that's the way it is. But we don't realize that urban America drops every day, or at least every week. And what happens when we do that? Well, we buy into all the marketing that the grocery store is set up for. So we waste money on this, on that, and the other thing. Think of when we go to town. I call it Stupid Mart because I walk into Stupid Mart and I end up with 10 stupid things that I didn't need. And I forget 2 things on my list that I did need. So I've got a whole guide right now that we're designing on how to save the average consumer $1,500 on their grocery bill by having bulk beef in their freezer. That's how we help ranchers.
Nice. Awesome. Very good. I think we've got our last word from Shannon. June, anything you wanted to say before we wrap up?
I don't know. I don't have kids yet. I hope to have some kids one day. And in 67 years, apparently we're going to lose the last American rancher. So, we got to do something about this. And we have to work with people ourselves at the Beef Initiative, but also ranchers. We all have to work with people who are leading with truth and leading with a really good reason why they're here, right? And I think that if we can do that and we can find ways to trust each other again, as ranchers and business people, but also consumers and ranchers and all that stuff. But, if we're talking about just Beef Maps and what we can all do to make sure that June here and other folks that are in June's generation, that they don't actually witness the last American rancher die on a TikTok video. Okay. So we need to lead with trust. We need to have different kinds of ideas, about how we're going to get things done. Cause the old ways are broken, or as I've been saying more, as I talk to ranchers and stuff like that, it's like, the old ways are all covered up. Every time a rancher tells me they're all covered up, I know they're telling me to F off. But the old ways are all covered up, and we have to build new pathways. And what we're doing is we are connecting one person to another person directly through their home nodes, right? Eminent domain. Everybody know what that means, right? Well, you know what a domain name is? Your .com. Well, that's what we need people to connect with you through, because that's your home. That's your ranch on the internet, not beefinitiative.com/Ebersole, not beefmaps.com/Ebersole. Sure, we can have like pretty listings and stuff, but we need to build out our terminals, right? The terminal endpoints. And if we do our job, which I think that we're doing a good job with, I think more and more people will join us, and more ranchers are going to say, dude, $25 a month? Yes. Oh, and I could quit whenever, right? It's not mandatory, right? Nope. This ain't the beef checkoff. This is the beef check-in. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much my final words, is that I'm here, for the right reasons. We're all here for the right reasons, and this is a slow, long game, and we're here to ride it out.
Very good. Shanen, June, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clay. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate Shanen and June taking the time to join me. Very good conversation. Really appreciate just the philosophical way that they think about it and some of those things. So coming up next on the Working Cows podcast, we'll be talking to Taylor Henry from Acres USA. And we're going to talk to him a lot about how he looks at leadership and lessons he's learned about business and leadership from starting his own business, but then also purchasing Acres USA. He's the relatively newly minted owner. And we'll talk to him about their 50th annual conference coming up, the Acres USA Conference, the Eco Ag Conference. I'll be talking to him about that coming up on the next episode of the Working Cows podcast. And we look forward to seeing you then.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.